All right, good afternoon, class. Today we'll be presenting our article, Alonso de Illescas. My name is Deshaun Adamson.
I'm Ryan Frazier.
I'm John Miller.
Yeah, and today we're just going to talk a little bit about his story. So basically, I'd just like to start off to tell you that Alonso was a slave who was born in Cape Verde Islands. It's basically an island located on the western coast of South Africa. By the age of 8, he was taken into live in Seville, where he was forced into slavery. He was forced to work for a merchant. He was one of the wealthiest merchants in Seville, Spain at the time. Within a few years, he became accustomed to the Spanish culture. He began to learn the language. He began to understand the Christian culture aspects of it as well. And he also began to learn new things such as how to play the guitar and even communicate with some of his former slaves as well. His original name, however, wasn't Alonso. It was Enrique. And before that, before his name was changed, this is what he had before. So growing up in Cape Verde, that's what he was customly called. But they changed his name in order to make sure that who his slave owner was, and in order for him to keep constant contact with them, so he won't be used for other slave masters or whatnot. His job wasn't to work on sugar plantation field as many of his other fellow slave members. He was a personal slave servant. So basically, he was working in the house, doing different types of errands for his merchant. The slave trade in Seville was actually very beneficial. It actually helped produce a population growth from 50,000 in 1530 to 120,000 by 1580. 8 to 12% of the population was made up of Africans. And during this time period, once the population grew to this level, they decided, the slave owners decided that they wanted to venture off in order to produce more goods, in order to attract more slaves and ultimately make more money. So this led to a tradition of ship travel. So by the 1550s, they set on a voyage from Panama to Lima to see if they could colonize other places in order to ultimately produce more slaves and more money. And this ultimately provided Alonso the opportunity to free himself from slavery and free himself from the captivity of his owners through this ship voyage. And I'll turn it over to Ryan to explain more about that.
So Illescas was one of the 23 slaves that was en route from Lima to Lima from Panama in 1553. This ship would alter the people on the boat's life forever. As the journey began, they hit trouble at sea, ultimately leading to a shipwreck. The 23 slaves who were on the ship took this as an advantage, as Deshaun alluded to, as an opportunity to gain their freedom. The slaves ventured toward a small town called Puerto Vigo. Along the trip, no Europeans had survived making it to this land. Surprisingly, the slaves had survived, but were up against their biggest task. Now, Illescas had his biggest challenge to not only gain himself into a community and the others that they were not familiar with, but they were alone. A community where they were unfamiliar with the land, the slaves thrived. By 1570, Illescas had successfully allied the people of his community with the indigenous population, even creating a multicultural community. Illescas defended its independence against Spain, achieved dominance from surrounding communities, and even welcomed shipwrecked boat members along the crew. By the late 1570s, the Esmeraldas even began to trade with the Spanish in the port hub. Illescas single-handedly is known as the greatest and most powerful tool to establishing and advancing the Esmeralda community.
Alonso Illescas had a key role in the Esmeralda's trading relations with Spanish. The Spanish Quito sent the bishop from Spanish Quito sent a clergyman by the name of Miguel Cabello, and he wanted to form a relationship with Alonso. He wanted to make a treaty with Alonso for him to colonize in the tribal lands. Alonso didn't want this because they would have to move his people to San Mateo Bay, which was not a very safe place compared to the forest and the rainforest that they used to live in. So Alonso avoided him and hid his people in a very hidden place where Cabela couldn't find him again. So this Cabela waited around this land for a while and then decided that he needed to find more land. So he left, and a lot of people wanted to find Alonso because he was the key to these people, and he was the person that would say yes or no. And a very important a very important merchant was trying to find him to find trade routes and find these resources to live in this land. And so the very famous merchant was Rodrigo de Ribaneiro, and he wanted to get his relationship better with Alonso by sending gifts to his people that were very important in the rainforest, like machetes and knives. And Alonso was very happy about this and thought of this as a very nice gesture. But in the end, he was like, I can't really trust these people because they're always trying to take advantage of my people and destroy our land. So he wrote a letter to the bishop and said that I can't trust anyone and I need to hide from all Spanish conquistadors, basically. And this was his last public announcement to in the world and in history. So this was the last word from him. And a lot of people tried to find this man, Alonso, to develop these trade routes. And he died around the late 1590s. And his son, Sebastian, came control. And Sebastian was the first person to come to agreement with the Spanish, and he was sent to Quinto to get his father's name confirmed to him in the Spanish church and the Roman church. And he decided to gain trust with these people and develop a treaty with them. And this is how the Maroon people and Esmeralda people decided to have a relationship with the Spanish people. And they were never really legitimized by the Spanish, but had allies and was a trusted trade post at the end of this time in the 1600s. So that's how the Esmeralda and Alonso de Illescas was a key role in the Esmeralda trading.
That's good. Pretty much sums it up. Thank you for listening to our article. All right.
Alonso de Illescas, what do you call him? Sorry, we're gonna have to edit that. My bad.
That's
What's the name of the
Esmeraldas?
Yeah.
Esmeralda.
All right.
Esmeralda.
Esmeraldas.
A man named by...
Today we're going to be presenting our article. My name is Deshaun.